we'll move on to McFarland for you.
The one thing I have a question on with McFarland, just with Matt quickly, is so I'm not sure that he was healthy this whole year, Matt. I mean, when I was watching him last year, I saw much more
I agree.
explosiveness and confidence. I mean, he still will run through a brick wall. He is a fearless, smaller back, but I didn't see quite the same back as I saw at the end of the year last year. Whether that's confidence or injury, is that what you saw as well?
I would agree. I did see that, and that's one of those things that makes them difficult to evaluate, because are you going to get more of last year, or are you going to get more of what we saw, in 2019?
Mm-hmm.
More on the conspiracy theory side, I did find it interesting that both him and Leak came out when I thought both of them could have used another year. So I wondered if there was something going on there at Maryland that was a little weird.
That was a beautiful transition right there out of the exchange. You notice how he just takes out one step and opens his hips like that, and just that point of that right toe to get downhill. Very efficient play right there.
Yeah.
And he's an excellent gap play runner. Like, to me, this is where he needs to be. Like, if you put him in gap, I think he can give you a lot.
Watch how explosive he is out of that broken tackle.
Zone, I think he would struggle, because I think it's too many decisions to make.
It is. He paralyzes himself. He gets paralyzed. He's kind of like Bishop Sankey would get paralyzed with zone decisions. And I think that he's kind of that way when it comes to zone.
Right. And it gets magnified near the goal line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, for anyone that hasn't seen or researched a lot of McFarland, he is not Booger McFarland's son.
Because I was going to ask if he had a booster seat or a little chair next to Booger's chair on Monday Night Football.
Oh, that thing was awful. The Booger Mobile.
Yeah. This is nice in terms of him working outside.
I agree.
How did he weigh in at 208? That's what I'm still trying to figure out. Whatever program he's on, some other guys need to get on, because there's no way he was playing anywhere close to that in my opinion.
I think he's got a pretty thick lower body.
I mean, you look at him and Dobbins and Edwards-Helaire, they're all within a couple pounds of each other. It seems as Benjamin,
I was surprised to see Piron at 215, honestly.
McFarland runs hard. That's the one thing I came away with. He's got a little bit of that Chris Johnson toughness to him that you don't expect from a guy you think is smaller.
Yeah.
Man.
And that's some fearless burst right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he sees that crease and it's like, okay, I think I can beat that safety on the field side.
And, which is hard to do.
Yeah,
Well
and he
blocked.
nearly does it. Yeah, very well blocked.
He hits it, though.
And that's right there. You go back to it. I love, one of my biggest things, Matt, that I like to, you asked this earlier, is I love the small, subtle cuts with running backs. Right here, he gets through here and he makes this small, subtle move to the outside. It's hard to see, but he widens by a half yard right there.
Right there.
Yard.
Yeah.
That's so valuable in terms of space for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's a good point.
Yes. And that's a nice little stiff arm there to ward off. There it is.
Yep. And that widening that you're talking about is a difference between him getting tackled there and not. Because if he doesn't widen there, he's going down.
Yeah.
He also broke his leg his senior year, which made him redshirt. So, he's so tough because we just don't know what the real McFarland is. We didn't see a bunch of him early at Maryland, and then he got hurt this last year. So,
yeah, and it's one of those situations that you just wonder if, too, where he fits. I mean, most people would say common sense wise, a gap team's going to want to take him, and I think that's probably the case. But some team, eventually, there might be someone who falls in love with him and says, "We can make him his own runner," and then that's when you go, "Oh, Lord, I hope that he lands in the right spot."
Mm-hmm.
You ever see anybody run straight into a brick wall before?
4 times. He does it again here, doesn't he?
Oh.
Yep.
This is like Raquel Armstead last year.
Oh yeah.
That dude had 1 year, and it was as hard as I could straight ahead.
Oh,
Hey, Nick, what Rams player does he remind you of?
Oh yeah, where's our weekly Rams comp?
Slow this one down if you can.
Okay. From this angle?
Yeah. Like, this is where you kind of look at this and go, all right, he's got 75 here. Maybe he can kind of stay on that line of 75 as long as possible so that he can move that defender out of that lane. Because he kind of cuts back maybe a step or two early, but he would have had to change his footwork entirely to probably on approach to even get there. And then you're like asking him to be a lot more patient than maybe what you'd be used to on this kind of a play. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, no, I'm with you, because the other one is you could get skinny potentially. You know what I mean, by slowing it down and getting skinny. But I mean, when you take the context of the play, which I think is the big part of that. I mean, it's 4th and goal, and he's probably like, I have to run as hard as I can to get in here and, missile myself in. And he probably was just too impatient, honestly.
Garrett, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you see, you see a little bit of a lane there to the left of who is that 8? What I don't see what number, the guy that's circled. You see a little bit of a lane there to the left, but I think he saw it too late to be able to get all the way over in time, and he ended up getting hit pretty head on instead of getting a glancing blow to the side right off the butt of his guard there, or cutting it all the way back. He kind of got caught in that in between.
Yeah, and I don't know if he could have pressed it as hard to that right as he could have, because there was a defender coming through there late, and they already had a push to that side. So, yeah, it was a good play on Temple's part.
Jared, to answer your question, I'm going to say, ooh, look at that. Sorry, we got to watch
That
this.
was a sexy cut.
It's a good reaction.
Yeah, it is. It's a good job of reading the leverage.
I'll say one of my favorite Rams running backs of lately, and I'll say Zach Stacy.
Zach Stacy?
Oh, I love Zach Stacy out of Vanderbilt.
I have no issue with that. But of
he doesn't
all
remind me
the
of
comps.
him.
I mean,
he doesn't comp.
You're
I'm
better
just
than
having
that,
fun.
Nick.
Matt,
I'm just having fun.
it's like every episode, Nick has a old school Rams player comp for somebody.
It happened like 3
on.
or 4 weeks in a row randomly, and then
It just became a
thing.
Well, I like it. Maybe you can pull out Wendell Tyler a little bit later, or
So-
McCutcheon.
Matt will appreciate this one, Garrett, because you guys don't know this one. Who is my Andy Isabella comp, Garrett, that I talked about?
Oh, when you're talking about Chad Beebe?
No, Don Beebe.
Or Don Beebe.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Yeah, that's a good one.
Isn't that a good? Aren't they like the same body and how they move?
Yeah.
See, Matt appreciates it.
See, and Isabella grew up where I did in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow.
Yeah, I would have gone to that high school if I didn't move. Is the one that he went to. It was kind of funny to see that he was from that neighborhood.
I wonder what they're gonna do with him there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if he can be more efficient with his routes. Like, I think if he can be more efficient with his routes, we'll see a lot more of him. But that's gonna be the question.
Man, is he explosive.
Look, nice pad level, feet moving. Did he get the knees up? Probably had to got the knees up on that too.
That's why, like, he has these traits, and you're like, man, there's some really good instinctual football play there and physicalness.
Yeah,
And it's just healthy.
Yeah, staying healthy and getting him in situations where, like, obviously this is a straight ahead kind of play for him. So if you give him these situations where he's kind of getting downhill fast, give him a nice track to build up that acceleration quickly, he's tough.
Yeah. Good leg drive.
And just low to the ground.
Yeah, it doesn't give the defender much room to hit either. Right here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a nice. At the very least, he gives you some scat back qualities. That second cut was kind of fun too. That second little dip to the outside.
And what I like too is that he doesn't go straight to the outside. He widens and then evaluates, and then widens again, which maximizes yardage.
Kind of stair steps his way to the outside.
So Matt, I hear you talk about micro movements a lot. Can you kind of explain that to the viewers, what you mean exactly?
Sure, it's kind of a catch-all term for very subtle shifts in the body. It can be how you lift the leg or turn your hip or dip a shoulder or and elude contact, where like maybe you're making a cut away from a defender to your left, and then a defender to the right comes in, and you see while you're making that jump cut away to your left that you see them like raise their right leg just away enough to avoid that defender's reach, or that they can, turn the shoulder just enough where they're tucking the ball away so that the defender can't wrap their bicep or elbow. It's just those little moves that what ends up happening is that that it gains them 2 to 3 more yards oftentimes, because they make a defender who had an angle miss in a very tight space.
I think J.K. Dobbins and Jonathan Taylor both do a really good job of that.
Yes.
Even with McFarland here, this is a little punch step outside, like Nick was saying, to widen himself. Consider that like a micro movement.
Sure.
Would you say that Javid Best did that a lot, Matt? That's one guy that comes to mind when you talk about those movements. He did some stuff just so specially that I was like, wow.
Yeah, and that was so sad that that the head injuries cut short his career. He was a fantastic player.
So fun to watch.
Look at a runner that I think people give him credit for. Like, he's a fantastic athlete, but man, the way he ran was like special.
Yeah. I loved him out of school. Really disappointed that happened.
Do you remember that UCLA run where he like, it's like a 90-yard touchdown run, and he cuts it back, and then there's an outside corner, and he goes north and south to bait the DB more, and then goes outside of him? Do you remember that?
I don't, but I would love to see that again.
I'll send you a link after the show. Okay. It's just like, that's just such advanced running. It's great to watch.
Yeah, the two guys that were most disappointing due to injuries that were so fun to watch in college and turned out to be good pros before they got hurt and just your short careers got cut short were Best and Austin Collie. I was a big Austin Collie fan. I thought he could have had a huge career. I thought he could have been what Julian Edelman has become, and even more.
David Wilson comes to mind as a guy where his career got cut too short too.
So let's take a look at this. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I mean, nice blocking up front. I mean, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, he sees it, hits it.
Yeah.
Gets 7 yards. 6.
And what you wonder about him, maybe, and because he's such a good gap runner, is that on a play like this, could he alter pace a little bit more and maybe slow down a bit to set up this defender who comes up and maybe be able to make him miss more if he wasn't going a million miles an hour? But I don't even know if that's fair. Like, that's one of those questions that you watch him enough and you try and look at it and say, are there more clear-cut situations where he could be a little bit more patient, and does this one just kind of symptomatic of that, or is it just a one-off play? There you go. Look at that. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's that Jared, size there, Garrett.
Jared, I'm glad you skipped past that pass protection there, because that was pretty bad. So I'm glad you kept going.
You noticed that, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, good run here.
A big thing for me is seeing guys that are able to, behind the line of scrimmage, be creative and they're creators in plays. There's some guys that, and it's actually one of my, even though he's, right up there in the top 3 backs in the class, my one biggest concern with Jonathan Taylor is he's not very creative behind the line of scrimmage. If he goes to a place that doesn't have a solid offensive line, he has to do that more often than we'd like. Will he be able to do that well at the next level? So when I can see guys, P. Ryan did that a couple times. We saw McFarland do that there with some of those nice cuts, ability to change direction with a defender in his face with hardly any room, is one of the most encouraging things for me, because to me it means they're less dependent on a good offensive line.
And you look at this particular play. I mean, I hear your point. I mean, it's a good one when you're talking about backs and kind of the creativity that they need to have to an extent with that, but and then you coming on this play. I mean, this is it looks like we have a pretty loaded box here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the beginning, or at least, well, 7. We've got 7, and
four
maybe you count
creeping out
8
there.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the safety. Yep.
So it's a nice job of him here. I mean, again, giving that time for the fullback to kind of work inside there or work to the edge, and then him work around it.
Yeah, bad job before there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really set up for him, though. You know, I mean, we look at it, we think this is, I mean, it's a good play, but it's not a great play because the defense just was bad.
Yeah.
Left a big gap in there. And I mean, I know you guys all like Dobbins, but I found a lot of those plays, Matt, with him, where it was, they were worried about Fields, and there's some pretty big gaps as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why kind of, to me, it's often about what behaviors can the back control, and do they set, or does the player create situations where good things can happen for his teammates, you know, or good things can happen for his team. And like, I mean, the classic example for me, you mentioned Matt Forte. I remember watching him against LSU, and I say this a lot on a lot of shows, watch him against LSU,
Good effort.
average less than 2 yards a carry. That whole offense, that whole team didn't have a player who could bench press all but one player on LSU's team, and he still scored high because he could control what he could control.
I'll tell you what, it's been a while since I've done my eval on McFarland, and I might be moving him up a little bit here. I just love the way he runs his feet. They never stop.
Yeah,
And he has
I mean,
good pad level.
This stuff's good, and I love the fact that he kind of gets low there and is able to work through, it looks like, the safety or the outside linebacker there. I think my biggest concern is, again, where, you know, his fit. Like, if you're separating gap scheme backs from zone scheme backs, I like him more. You know, if you're saying, all right, guys, if you're judging running backs by all the things that they can do, then it's kind of like, okay, you gotta account for that.
Yeah, here's a zone.
He kind of missed it here, didn't he? He read those two.
It's
Maybe
like
cut back one too far.
Yep.
Yeah. Slow it down a little bit if you can.
I mean, he still could have went outside here too. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Let's see. Let's one more time. Go one more frame
Back.
here. Yeah, to keep going forward, just a little bit by little bit. So, I mean, I think this is an area where he saw a flash maybe of that linebacker who's coming through, and he tried to cut it back when he had the lead blocker. I think Nick's right. This is where he could have just stayed that line and really turned it upfield. And this is where I worry about him a little bit, is that at his worst, and every player at their worst does some things that you're just like, you can make it sound as derogatory as it, you know, more derogatory than they are. But it's like, you know, McFarland's the kind of guy that if you were going to insult his game, you would say he's a guy that can turn a good play into a bad one. Like, he'll be in the middle of a good situation and then just like not make the right decision. And you're like, you're at the edge of success, and then you hit the self-destruct button. and it's like his game kind of does that sometimes, where it's like, you're in the crease. Why did you reverse field? Or you're in the crease. Why did you try to cut back? You already were there. Like, just keep going. And there's some plays from last year. And again, you talked about injury. You talked about some differences there. Maybe some of that was the case, but he's like that, you know, I don't know. I'm older than you guys, so I've had probably more relationships than you guys did, you know, and I'm happily married now, thankfully. But, you know, I definitely was one of those people that I could say that, like many, that you know, you look like you're heading in the right direction there, and then you pick the wrong situation to be in. And everybody's like, dude, you know, we set you up with her. She was like, she's great. And then you pick that person who really likes trouble. And like,
right.
I like trouble. I don't know, you know, it was fun, but you know, it didn't last very well.
That's funny. Yeah. I mean, that's so true. And like, when you want to talk about, you know, earlier we talked about like floor for running back and stay ahead of the chains. P. Ryan, I think, does that. Dobbins does that. I think Edwards-Helaire does that. McFarland doesn't.
No.
Akers doesn't. There's a few of them where they're high and they're low are much bigger than. I mean, earlier you had talked about Taylor Garrett. I mean, Taylor, I think mentally is like Adrian Peterson, where he's going to stay with the play design and cut a little bit off of that. And
Absolutely.
that's just who he is as an artist in terms of running.
Absolutely.
And, his flaw is he'll just get downhill too quickly. He's not going to try and dance or go and cut all the way back. That's just who they are in terms of their art form. McFarland's going to try and do way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, if Taylor goes to, a team with a solid, solid offensive line, a good zone scheme, I mean, he'll eat. I have no doubt about that. It's just if things don't go that direction, I'm a little more concerned. But if he lands on the Colts or if he lands on, something ridiculous like that, like dude could put up 1,800 yards in a second.
Yeah. I can't wait to watch him play.
It's gonna be fun. I can't wait for the draft. Oh, can't wait.
It's gonna be interesting to watch with how different it's gonna be this year too.
Oh yeah.
Well, fortunately, those guys don't have to get on a boat now. I was worried, are they going to put life preservers on some of those guys? Because some of them big boys, 350 pounds, you put them in a little boat. I don't know how that was going to work out.
So what was different here than the other one when he cuts it back?
Yeah, let's see that.
There's
a little more of a push on 71 early, but that's where he probably should have cut it.
He could have cut that one back.
Everyone's to the outside again.
He seems like he's in a rush.
Yep.
More often than not, I like to see him have a little more pace behind the line of scrimmage.
Slow to quick through.
I just looked. I have him at running back 13, which now that I think about it, it's pretty fair.
I think I have him a tiny bit higher. Oh, I forgot to say what the nerd score was. I pumped it up early and now I forgot. Look at that.
He's 63 or something.
63. He's got a 63.48 coming in as our 14th ranked running back. He's right in the same range as Josh Kelly, Rico Dowdle, and we're kind of low on Eno Benjamin. So in the range of those three guys.
Rico Dowdle.
That was you. You pumped up Rico's.
Hey, I like him, man. He's got some.
I paid him.
Another guy who has injury concerns.
Yeah. That was definitely.
He's got the talent.
I have him 7. So.
You have Rico 7?
No, McFarland 7.
Okay. All right. I was like, whoa. I was about to be.
I have P. Ryan 9.
How far did you move up Van Jefferson?
That's a nice little move there.
I'm high on Van Jefferson. I'm curious your thoughts on him, Matt.
Van Jefferson?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I like him all right. I think I think that if he starts working on his hand positions, in terms of tracking the trajectory of the ball over the middle, if he works on that as much as he's worked on his routes, he'll be even better. But right now, I think that he's a good player who will likely become a starter, especially in the slot. But I want to see him. I feel like that he still has work to do against patient cornerbacks. I think patient cornerbacks got the better of him, and very few cornerbacks were that patient. But you could see it on occasion. And I thought that his hand usage, he fought the ball at times on routes that should have been easier catches. But fantastic route runner. I mean, man, he can tell a story at the line. He can tell a story at the line of scrimmage that's efficient and fast. Whereas, like, you go look at a guy like Andy Isabella. He's really prolific with all the moves that he has. But it's like that works well in practice, but in games sometimes it's not efficient enough. And it's like, and a guy like Van Jefferson, man, dude, 1 yard of space and he's told like a story, and he told 3 parts of a story and he's already gone, and that's talented.
And the important part too, and you talked about it in terms of space, is because we always taught our receivers, not only do you have to get off of the press coverage as quickly as possible, you have to do it in the shortest amount of area too, because that increases separation and timing for your quarterback. So yeah, I'm big on Jefferson. I have him in my top 10, so I'm really high on Van.
Nice.
We'll get through this one a little quicker, but just because we're running, I don't know. I got plenty of time, but I don't want to keep you guys.
Yeah.
But we got Syracuse here. Any thoughts on Javon Leak? Daniel Wright asks.
Let me think about Leak here. Some things that I can look at. It's been a bit.
Garrett, you've talked about Leak before. I don't really have too much to say.
I don't have a ton of notes on him. Like I said, I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory with, I'm wondering what was going on at Maryland, because I thought both of those guys could have used another year in a college system. So I'm not quite sure what was going on there at Maryland for both of those guys to exit. I thought that was interesting, but I'm not very high on Leak. We actually we weren't even high enough to put him in our tape score for the nerd score. So Matt, if you have any strong opinions one way or another on Leak.
Yeah, he was my 49th back out of the 55 that I watched.
Okay.
And so he didn't,
that says enough.
Yeah, he had some issues. Let's put it that way. He had a lot of issues with his game that I think needed correcting.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised both of these guys came out. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have him pretty low too. He's got tight hips. There's not a huge upside there. I think he could be an NFL guy in terms of if he helps out with special teams, but I'm not sure he's ever going to be fantasy relevant.
Either. I'm not sure he gets drafted.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. The lane develops there. Good job of pressing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And safety flows.
Mm-hmm.
that's nice. Not much more you could ask from that.
No. But I also like his attitude. Despite the,
Hits it up in there.
rumor of him being small, this is what I'm going to get,
Yeah, he's tough.
Yeah.
He's a
Versus
tough runner.
Darrington Evans wouldn't do that.
No.
Yeah. We haven't covered him yet, have we, Nick?
No.
No, I'm not as high on him. So
No, I think he came in pretty low in our nerd score.
It wasn't like super low though. I think
he
got some
came in at
tools
like
to-
17 out of our running backs.
Okay. Hey Matt, have you had a chance to watch Xavier? Well, I'm sure you've watched him, but what do you think about Xavier Jones from SMU? Yeah.
I liked him. I think that ultimately, at first I thought I would have a higher grade on him than I did, but I think he's really sudden. I think he hits the creases hard. I wondered about his long speed after his initial acceleration, but I think he's a guy who he kind of reminded me in style of Reggie Bush, in terms of just
Very shifty.
stylistically.
Yeah.
Very. It seemed like if I remember correctly, pretty good receiver.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
He does everything pretty well, is what I came away with, and he does a really good job of making people miss. Like one of the better guys in the class.
yeah, I gave him a star caliber grade for elusive. So he had a top tier grade in that area of just being able to make people miss.
Mm-hmm.
Look at him fight on that play. Go back. It's third and 2, but he just fights. This is what I like.
Yeah.
You have to have that in a
respect
smaller
that.
back. If you don't have that, there's no chance, potential wise.
And
Yeah.
there's explosion through those second moves. You just see how fast he sheds the guy. You don't see how he really does it, but it's like because his feet are moving, as Garrett talked about, I think too, is that he keeps his feet moving well.
Mm-hmm.
He just it's like when the weight comes off, you just see the burst come through there.
They keeps tricking me. Seriously.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. It's a good job on the quarterback.
A lot of misdirection.
That one was like, okay.
Earlier, you had talked about just someone getting into scouting, Matt, and focusing on one thing. I found just on YouTube, NFL.com, and a lot of these places, they'll have coaches, they'll have players talking about their games and things they see and reads. That's one resource that I found where you can cut the work down if you talk to Malcolm Jenkins and he talks through pre-snap what he reads and things
I
like that. I think
love
it's
that
really
stuff.
useful.
Yes, that's a great point, and it kind of does help you see what the advanced players, how they view things, and that gives you also an idea of how much preparation they have, and some of the things that I'd also talk about is that this may be intimidating to some people. It certainly was for someone like me because I wasn't a player, but there's the whole football's kind of like academic silos. You kind of have like if you went to a school and you saw like they have different departments, for anthropology and film, and theater and music and business, it's kind of like for football, and even within it, like business, you have finance, accounting, real estate, whatever. You look in football and you have analytics, you have, film evaluation. Ooh, yeah. You have scheme, people who talk about scheme and play calling.
Damn,
Mhm.
that's a cut.
Yeah. Go one more time.
Peyton Manning's detail is a great one.
Yes. But that's nice.
You got him to bite. Whew,
Yeah.
You got him to bite.
I mean, you have strength staff. I mean, that's huge, and the nutrition and
Yeah. And
skill part of it.
that's really nice with the way he opened those hips and exploded through that for sure.
On one of the earlier runs that we didn't get a chance to touch on, it was interesting because we talked about how he's always moving ahead. He doesn't really have much of a pace. He slipped actually on one of the runs, and it actually helped him get a seam because it forced him to slow down. It was kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, but and when you talk about the different silos, it's like, listen, I mean, when it can help you to learn about scheme and learn about the drawing up plays. But, one of the things that I know Mark Schofield and I were talking about, who writes with me at the Rookie Scouting Portfolio, former quarterback, is like, we were talking about this last week. He said he's kind of come to the conclusion a little bit more and more, kind of where I've been lately, which is it's about reading leverage of the defense. It's nice to know what Dan Orlovsky knows when he puts it all on tape, and he does a great job of that on TV. But, that can be helpful to an extent. But really what the quarterback's looking for is, where's the man, who's playing zone, where are my progressions on the field, and what is the leverage of the defender, and should I know when to let the ball go?
Mm.
And so I think from a scouting perspective, sometimes if you don't have to get so intimidated about, I've got to know like every defense, I have to be able to read every coverage, I have to know what all the techniques are on the defensive line, and all those things can be helpful, and you want to keep working on learning them. But if you're focusing on the techniques of the individual positions and then how their position fits into the whole, you'll discover that watching a running back and what the line is supposed to do, you'll start to learn about what the line is supposed to do.
Jared, can you actually go back to
The reception.
Oh, I know.
the long one. So watch how quickly he gets back to full speed. That's something that Travis Etienne does crazy well. But right out of slipping that tackle, 2 steps, and he's basically back up to full speed. It's really impressive to watch.
And it's that immediate transition downhill again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I like, and this is something that you see out of CeeDee Lamb, and I think I've seen out of Hunter Bryant as well. When he catches this with his back to the defender, this peak in which way to turn, I think is what separates so many players from, hey, that's a decent gain, to look at what he just did, which is like special. That feel of which way to move and catching it and thinking, hey, I need to see where this guy is on my back.
Yeah, where does the ball arrive? Does it arrive on the outside shoulder or the inside shoulder? Because I think it was on the inside shoulder, but he moved it to his outside shoulder.
There's a great look at it.
It's like Leroy Human painting.
Heck?
There we go.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But
But
maybe he was
I'm not
led
either.
inside a little bit, maybe.
yeah,
I know
okay.
Lamb does a great job of that.
Because if he's led inside, then what he's doing is they call it, you can call that obeying the ball. Like if you're led inside, obey that and trust it and go inside. If
Right.
you're put outside,
Mhm.
I don't know if he means to do this, but I think the fact that he kind of comes back towards the line of scrimmage on this route gives him more separation. And if he meant to do it, that's pretty headsy play.
Yeah.
He's a fun player to watch. That Ohio State game last year.
Yeah, people are talking about that in the chat.
I mean, I mean, they schemed it well. Those 2 early runs. I mean, Ohio State was really badly over schemed. I mean, they motioned and it was trips to the field side and they ran to the boundary. I mean,
I purposely didn't pick that film just because it was so outrageous, and it was on Daily Motion, and
it hurts a little bit too much.
Yeah, we're Buckeye fans out here, Waldman.
See, there you go. Most of my family graduated from there, so.
Okay.
There you go.
So you got Buckeyes and Badgers here. I see how this goes. Now I understand.
Where are you from?
I grew up half my childhood in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, nice.
And then the other half in Atlanta.
Well, when you mentioned Andy Isabella, I was like, oh, Andy Isabella went to what? Ignatius, I think?
Mayfield High School.
Okay. All right.
Garrett and I are in North Canton.
Oh, okay. There you go.
What do you guys think if we transition out of here and we talk about AJ Dillon?
Yeah, that sounds good because I do want to hear your thoughts here on Dillon because I'm very intrigued as to what you think about him.
Sure. And
I'll let you take the lead on this one, Garrett, because I think you're the most anti-Dillon guy here.
Don't frame it like that.
It's okay.
Man, Matt's got to know. Don't hide because Matt's here.
Yes, please. It's okay.
I am very anti AJ Dillon.